Bhagavate. Today we are continuing Sri Krishna and Sri Aurobindo on the Janmastami Eve. This is the part 2 where I would like to announce you that Sri Krishna has never left us alone. He was always with us since Dwapar Yuga to till today. And he has continued to continued his Lila in Lila Bhumi Pondicherry. So today we'll talk about that. Sri Krishna came in Dwapara Yuga and did Lila with us, as we know. I mean with the fortunate mankind of that period, but with my little understanding and glimpses of knowledge, that what I understand and feel, that he has never left us alone. Towards the end of Dwapara, when he left his body and the funeral was over, the navel of his physical body remained unburnt and left as the sacred relics for the humanity and the earth for all time. His physical part as Daru Brahma settled, as you know, in the form of Sri Jagannath, the Lord of the cosmos, like a sun inside this earth, so that each living being continues to get the privilege of his supreme physical influence and touch on earth. Although he is worshipped in different names and different forms in the various parts of this land. With all our love for Sri Krishna, we come across innumerable instances, incidences, events and facts where Sri Krishna has always stood for his bhaktas, beloved friends, and destruction of evils, whatever forms. In this context, what I see and feel very concretely, that in the previous century also, he came to live with us physically. So once again, with your permission, if I may be permitted to go back little of the last century for an intuitive analysis of the recent past facts, which could be perceived by any of us clearly, then we can understand the facts behind the guidance of Sri Krishna in the entire life journey of Sri Aurobindo. Since the very day of Sri Aurobindo's return from England and stepping into the land of India through Apollo Bandar of Bombay in 1893, we can recount his experience of deep peace and intense ananda while touching the soil of Mother India. Since that day till his last day of departure from Chandannagar, he was being used, moved and guided by Sri Krishna to arrive at the final destination of his life in Pondicherry. Sri Aurobindo was just following his Ades till then minutely and moving on with his yogic life as it was ordained to him, but never raised any question to him, to Sri Krishna, to know about his own future of work or reason of all these happenings, all these mishap, all these catastrophe happenings around him, that he has to go everywhere in disguise, in different names, this, that. But he has never asked a question. He was just following his Ades. Now the analysis of the facts remain to know what was the master plan of Sri Krishna behind exile of Sri Aurobindo to Pondicherry, where the mother Mira Alfasa, who was also guided by someone since her childhood known as Krishna, was supposed to come from France to meet Sri Aurobindo for the manifestation of a greater spiritual event and to collaborate with him in the greater divine play for the evolutionary progress of the earth and humanity. So, the divine chosen land Pondicherry could be the new Vrindavan as Sri Krishna's Lila Bhumi, and also new Dwarika for his supreme abode in this new age to establish the next higher truth and higher being on earth. Sri Aurobindo was brought to this French occupied chosen land as his destination by Sri Krishna. The secret of it was unknown that time, so that Sri Krishna can live once again with us through a new personification of Sri Aurobindo, who was completely surrendered to him. Sri Aurobindo was completely surrendered to him from the day he entered into the Alipur jail, Kolkata. Sri Krishna once again lived with us physically in this recent last century. That's what I mean to say. As he embodied himself completely with his full divinity within Sri Aurobindo's cosmic soul, mind, life, and physical being to start a new divine task of bringing down to earth a highest truth force and to build a new human race of life divine on earth. That work of huge task from animal man to divine man by a journey of transformation of nature was daringly being taken up by the supreme player Sri Krishna only through his personification in the name of Sri Aurobindo. That is how the 24th of November 1926 became a very significant day in the history of ashram, when Sri Krishna took over completely Sri Aurobindo and physically descended into him. In other words, Sri Krishna and Sri Aurobindo became one in all its form. Sri Krishna started living here physically within Sri Aurobindo and founded the ashram in the name of Sri Aurobindo from that day onwards, and the entire task was handed over to the mother. In other way, this ashram is created by the Supreme, as the mother is the consciousness and force of the Supreme Divine. Sri Aurobindo arrived at Pondicherry on 4th April 1910. Until 23rd of November 1926, he was accessible to his fellow disciples and guests on permission. As we know, on 24th of November 1926, such an esteemed spiritual event happened with Sri Aurobindo that he withdrew himself completely and went into seclusion. That is the day which gave birth not only of Sri Aurobindo Ashram in a formal way, but also the intensive preparation of the earth, the humanity, for the descent of supramental force by the intensive sadhana of Sri Krishna and Sri Aurobindo as one. Now we'll see some of the messages of the Mother and Sri Aurobindo from their centenary works, particularly the letters on yoga, part 3, and Mother's agenda, which are very much relevant to this topic and which would confirm us the scenario of those days and the prominence of Sri Krishna's play in Sri Aurobindo Ashram. Anytime the reference for this also could be given as per the intimation. Let's see first the relevance of 24th November through this question answer. The relevance of 24th November 1926 particularly. The realization of 24th November 1926, the question arises, someone has put the question, descent of the overmind, ever since I came, descent of the overmind. The sadhak is asking, ever since I came here this time, probably in 1935 he is putting this question. I have been experiencing a very intense atmosphere, a very strong pressure, similar in intensity and depth to what I felt in 1926, month of October to December. It appears to me that the supermind is about to descend a second time. The sadhak is feeling this as if the supermind is descending second time because he is not clear what is that. Is this an entirely wrong feeling on my part, or there is some truth in it, if not the full truth? Sri Aurobindo is answering. There is some truth in it, but the descent in 1926 was rather of the overmind, adhimanas, not of the supermind proper. That was being answered on 21st August 1935. Again the question is being raised, what exactly is the significance of 24th of November? That's what is very interesting. Overmental, supramental realization or what? You say it was something like the descent of Krishna in the material. Some say the descent was in you, but you are not matter. Are you? Not very clear. Sri Aurobindo is answering in a very fantastic manner. Why not? Why can't I be matter? Or represent it at least? At least you will admit that I have got some matter in me. I mean, so the physical body at least. And you will hardly deny that the matter in me is connected or even continuous in spite of the quantum theory with matter in general. The matter is continuous with matter in general. Well, if Krishna or the overmind or something equivalent descended into my matter with an inevitable extension into connected general matter, what is the lack of clarity in the statement of a descent into the material? So you can understand from this. It was on 15th September 1935 again. You can understand Sri Aurobindo is confirming the descent into the material. Then again a question raised. Some say November 24th is a day of victory. By that some mean that the supermind, supramental consciousness, descended into the physical consciousness of Sri Aurobindo. Others say it was the coming down of Krishna into the physical consciousness. If it was the descent of Krishna, does that mean the descent of supramental light? Sri Aurobindo is answering. Krishna is not the supramental light. The descent of Krishna would mean the descent of the overmind Godhead, preparing, though not itself actually bringing, the descent of supermind and Ananda. Krishna is the Anandamaya. He supports the evolution through the overmind, leading it towards his Ananda. I believe that, the sadhak is telling. I believe that on the 24th of November, Sri Aurobindo realized that the mother is the divine consciousness and force. Mother is the divine consciousness and force. The sadhak is asking. Sri Aurobindo answered, no, I knew that long before. That mother is the divine consciousness and force, not exactly only on 24th of November 1926. This was also answered on 2nd November 1935 on the context of realization of 24th November 1926. Another question arises. I knew that Krishna is not the supermind, but because some say it was the descent of the supramental light and some say it was the descent of Krishna, I asked you to make it clear to me. What I wanted to know was whether the 24th of November was the descent of the supramental light or of Krishna's light. Why are we observing the 24th as a special day? It was the descent of Krishna into the physical. I do not know the significance of 24th of November 1926. Some say it is the immortality day, while others say it was the descent of Krishna's personality. Sri Aurobindo is answering. It has nothing to do with immortality. It is the descent of Krishna. I repeat. It is the descent of Krishna. 13th November 1935. A disciple of Sri Aurobindo wrote an article on the significance of the realization of 24th November 1926 in which he quoted the passage from Life Divine, and it goes like this. in order that the involved principles of overmind and supermind should emerge. The involved principles of overmind and supermind should emerge from their veiled secrecy. The being and powers of the superconscience, the being and powers of the superconscience must descend into us and uplift us and formulate themselves in our being and powers. This descent is a sine qua non of the transition and transformation. You can follow. The disciple is concluding from this live divine extract. This is referred to in the Vedas as the birth of the gods in man, Devanam Janmani. Devanam Janmani, the birth of the gods in man. It is required before the supramental descent. So a preparation is required. I am just explaining. A preparation is required that the God has to take birth within the man, then only can follow towards supramental. So today, in this auspicious day, we are really venturing into the very depth of the spirituality. So Sri Aurobindo regards it as indispensable for supramental realization on earth. That Devanam Janmani. It was this that occurred on the 24th of November 1926, and that first happened in Sri Aurobindo. And it is only then that Sri Aurobindo started his ashram, being sure that with the cooperation of the gods, the supermind can descend upon earth. What happened on the 24th of November prepared the possibility of this descent, and on that day he retired into seclusion and entered into deep and powerful meditation. So he went into seclusion. He has mentioned this on 20th November 1950. Again on the same subject, the realization of 24th November 1926. Well, now I would like to give you some of the very, very interesting things also mentioned by the mother, which you will find so close, that how Sri Krishna was so much with us all the time. All the time. Mother is telling, well, with my very own eyes, I saw Krishna, who had always been in rapport with Sri Aurobindo, consent to come down into his body. Question. Yes. In fact, I wanted to ask you, what is this realization of 1926 was? Mother is answering. It was this. Krishna consented to descend into Sri Aurobindo's body. Krishna consented to descend into Sri Aurobindo's body, to be fixed there. To be fixed there. There is a great difference, you understand, between incarnating, being fixed in a body, and simply acting as an influence that comes and goes and moves about. That happens with many, that influence comes and goes about and people think they realize. But here Mother is telling, it is in the fixed in a body. What is significant, which has never might have happened to anyone on this earth. That Sri Krishna fixed in a body. Well, Mother is telling, I was in contact with these beings and I told Krishna, because I was always seeing him around Sri Aurobindo. This is all very fine. Mother is telling to Krishna, this is all very fine. But what I want now is a creation on earth, that you should again recreate yourself on the earth in physical. That's what Mother means to say. This is all very fine, but what I want now is a creation on earth. You must incarnate. Mother is telling, then I saw him. I saw him with my own eyes. Inner eyes, of course. Join himself to Sri Aurobindo. You can put any word. Mother is telling, join himself to Sri Aurobindo. Then I went into Sri Aurobindo's room and told him. This is, I am describing the event Mother has spoken on 24th of November 1926 evening. And you know that the event, that one sadhika came out and explained, and before that Mother was telling, then I went into Sri Aurobindo's room and told him, here is what I have seen. Then that 24th November, all the 24 sadhaks, those who were around the ashram at the time after the meditation was being told, which is being narrated like this by a sadhika. As she said, means Mother said, she felt Sri Aurobindo speaking through her, and she explained everything that Krishna had incarnated, and that Sri Aurobindo was now going to do an intensive sadhana for the descent of the supermind. That it meant Krishna's adherence to the supramental descent upon earth, and that as Sri Aurobindo would now be too occupied to deal with people, he had put me in charge and I would be doing all the work. That she has told in agenda, the Mother has told in August 2nd, 1961. She has explained this. Well, I will also tell something from the thoughts and aphorisms which is explained by the Mother in various places, including agenda. There I will give also little explanation where Mother spoke about Sri Krishna, very excellent. Mother is telling, to explaining the aphorisms lines, when I live in Krishna, then ego and self-interest vanish, and only God Himself can qualify my love bottomless and limitless, illimitable. Then again, another, living in Krishna, even enmity becomes a play of love and the wrestling of brothers. The enmity becomes a play of love and wrestling of brothers when you live with Krishna. Then again, one more. To the soul that has hold the highest beatitude. When you live with Krishna, the soul that has hold of the highest beatitude, the greatest ananda, I mean to say. Life cannot be an evil or a sorrowful illusion. Rather, a life becomes the rippling love and laughter of a divine lover and playfellow. This is, you will find in the volume 10 of Thoughts and Aphorisms. This reminds me an excellent thing when Sri Aurobindo has written in the Mother book on Mahalakshmi. How nicely he is mentioning when Sri Krishna comes within you or Mahalakshmi presence. Life is turned in her supreme creations into a rich work of celestial art, and all existence into a poem of sacred delight. It is in the Mother book. Mother is, I am coming back to the Mother, one of her again a own experience with Krishna and Sri Aurobindo both together. Another thing, yesterday something being prepared in the past when Sri Aurobindo was there and I lived in that house, which is now the Datuar Annex. I feel that is the playground where it is now, the new gymnasium, that place. Mother is mentioning that there was a large veranda and I used to walk up and down on the veranda. Sri Aurobindo was in his room working at the time, and I would walk alone. But I was never alone. Krishna was always there. Krishna, the God Krishna, as he is known, but taller, more beautiful, and not with that ridiculous blue, you know, that slate blue, not like that. And we always walked up and down together. We would walk together. He was just a little behind. Mother is giving the gesture behind, almost against the nape of the neck and the shoulders, as if her head was close to the shoulder of Shri Krishna. I was little in front as if my head was on his shoulder, and he would walk. I didn't have the feeling of my head resting on his shoulder, but that's how it was. And we would walk, we would communicate. That lasted more than a year, every day. Then it ended. Afterwards, I saw him from time to time. When mother is telling, when we moved to the new house, I saw him. Sometimes at night, when I was very tired, he would come. I would sleep on his shoulder. But I knew very well. I think that is in the ashram, the present ashram building, probably there. Mother is telling, but I knew very well that it was a way Sri Aurobindo had of showing himself. Then when I came here, my mother is telling, to the present room. Present room means where we go for darshan now, mother's room darshan, the final one. At the time Sri Aurobindo has left, so mother is telling Sri Aurobindo had left, means after 1950 sometime. And I began walking up and down while reciting my mantra. Sri Aurobindo came, and he was at exactly the same place as Krishna was, same gesture, just behind the head. I would walk, and he was there. And he would walk together day after day. Day after day. And it was becoming so concrete, so marvelous, that I started thinking, why look after people and things? I want to remain like this forever. He caught my thought and he said, I am not coming anymore. And he stopped. Then mother is telling, I said, very well. And I started my mantra to the Supreme Lord. And I tried a lot to have him come and walk with me, but in no other form but himself, in the form of Sri Aurobindo. And the force, the presence, everything was there, and I would feel him more and more clearly staying like that, just behind me, impersonal. For a few days I have had a sort of feeling that I was close to something, and yesterday, for half an hour, the presence, an absolutely concrete presence. And it is he who told me, first Krishna, then Sri Aurobindo, then I. He doesn't want the effect to be the same and me to say again, now I am fed up with the people. This mother is mentioned in the agenda, agenda 6, June 18, 1965. Mother is narrating another. I was doing my japa, walking up and down with my eyes wide open, when suddenly Krishna came, a gold Krishna, all golden, in a golden light that filled the whole room. I was walking, but I couldn't even see the windows or the rug any longer. For this golden light was everywhere with Krishna at its center, and it must have lasted at least 15 minutes. Sri Krishna with golden light. And suddenly the chair I used for darshan came into the room. Krishna climbed up onto it, and his eyes twinkled mischievously, as if to say, I will be there, you see, and there will be no room for you. That means Krishna would be there always. There will be no room for anyone, as he mischievously speaks. Then mother is telling, only when that body had gone back upstairs, when he left, Krishna left upstairs to the room, did the consciousness of what is me return. So there is a line by Sri Aurobindo in which he expresses it very well. To annul oneself so that only the Supreme Lord may be. We have to completely annul ourselves when only the Supreme Lord will be there. That is also mother is mentioning in March 3, 1916 agenda. Now I will come back to the thoughts and aphorisms explained by the mother. This is relating to Krishna, very excellent thing. I didn't know for some time whether I loved Krishna best or Kali. When I loved Kali, it was loving myself. But when I loved Krishna, I loved another. And still it was myself with whom I was in love. So he is bringing here Krishna and the Kali. So Sri Aurobindo is telling, he writes, as if he felt identified with Kali more than with Krishna. Yet, Mother is telling him, and he told me so. There is something of Krishna in him. But at the time he felt Krishna in him, that's why he withdrew. Then the humanity was expecting, couldn't he have continued in activity with Krishna's presence? I hope. Today's part I will conclude here. We will go to the next episode very shortly. There is much more interesting thing to talk about Krishna, that while observing all these auspicious days, what is exactly we are supposed to become worthy of those auspicious days, or remembering Sri Krishna's Janmastami and acquaintance with Mother Sri Aurobindo, and how he is with us, lived with us forever, always, yesterday and today. Thank you. Thank you very much.